Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi. So I know, are you guys just about ready or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So for today, our resolution, you've elected to defend the resolution for today. So we'll offer you the floor first, and then we'll put up our first speaker if that's what you like.
It's fine.
All right.
Great.
Okay.
I'm just going to turn up our volume really quick here.
They can't see.
Is that okay? Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Stephanie, and I will be giving the first speech today. And I would like to begin by our findings lend support to the theory that excessive consumption of high fructose corn syrup found in many beverages may be an important factor in the obesity epidemic. Evan said, who was affiliated with Rockefeller University during this study and is now on the facility at the University of Florida. Because I believe that I must support this resolution, resolved that childhood obesity and an epidemic in Canada and the United States, and that this epidemic requires direct intervention by all levels of government, as this is the most effective way to address the problem. My first 5 points will be 1, significant risk of weight gain and obesity, 2, increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes, 3, hypertension and evaluated bad cholesterol levels, 4, high fructose corn syrup and liver damage, 5, mercury exposure from HFCS. Obesity is a growing health problem that affects many people, including children of all ages. Obesity is bad for our health for many reasons. This is not just a national problem, it is a global problem. Now for the first point, significant risk of weight gain and obesity. A study conducted by Princeton University found that rats were fed HFCS gained fat 300% more quickly than those fed equal or slightly larger serving of fruit-derived sugar. Excessive weight gain increases the risk of developing high blood pressure. It is estimated that over 25% of hypertensive cases are due to increased body weight. Second point, increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Consumption of high fructose corn syrup can lead to a huge increase in the likelihood of developing diabetes. The lifelong condition can be avoided in most cases. Excessive amounts of soda, energy drinks, and junk food aren't worth losing a foot or going blind. Obesity is the #1 cause of type 2 diabetes. The chances of getting diabetes increase more than tenfold if your body weight is higher than normal. Diabetes does all the bad things to your body. It can give many problems to your eyes, kidneys, and heart. Now for my third point. Hypertension and evaluated bad cholesterol levels. High fructose corn syrup doesn't make your body fat. It also makes your heart fat. There is a strong link between the irresponsible consumption of high fructose corn syrup and the evaluated triglyceride and LDC, which is bad cholesterol levels. Together, these can cause disease and even a stroke. High blood pressure is the leading cause of stroke and death rates due to stroke over 38%. Having excessive weight or being physically inactive can both lead to high blood pressure. So help to minimize your risk of stroke by maintaining a healthy weight through eating well and being regularly physically active. Now for our fourth point, high fructose corn syrup and liver damage. This is a big one. Like anything else you eat or drink, your liver, gallbladder, and kidneys process HFCS, and it's especially destructive to your liver. When combined with a sedentary lifestyle, permanent liver scarring can occur. This greatly diminishes the organ's abilities to process out toxins and over time can lead to the expensive range of other negative health concerns. Another study suggests that HFCS may also cause fatty liver. Individuals who are obese have a greater chance of suffering from sleep disorder breathing, also known as apnea. Now for my fifth and final point for the first speech. Mercury exposure from HFCS. Did you know high fructose corn syrup is often loaded with alarmingly high levels of mercury? One study found mercury in over 50% of samples tested. Mercury exposure can result in irreversible brain and nervous system damage, especially in young growing bodies. Way too many foods aimed at children are loaded with high fructose corn syrup. Besides the ginormous load of pure fructose and sugar found in HCFA and HCFS, as an added bonus, it contains another chemical toxins. Chemical contaminants used during manufacturing end up in the HFCS and in our food. In conclusion, the resolution resolved that childhood obesity is an epidemic in Canada and the United States, and that this epidemic requires direct intervention by all levels of government, as this is the most effective way to address the problem.
Students, if you're here for after-school detention or ARC,
Okay, so I know they're addressing this in a general sense.
So my 5 main points were: first, significant risk of weight gain and obesity; 2, increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes; 3, hypertension and elevated bad cholesterol levels; 4, high fructose corn syrup and liver damage; and 5, mercury exposure from HFCS. This is important because maintaining a healthy weight is an extremely important part of overall health. Being overweight or obese contributes to numerous health conditions that limit the quality and length of life, including hypertension, dyslipidemia, type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, stroke, gallbladder disease, depression, osteoarthritis, sleep apnea, and respiratory problems, and some cancers. Some people have claimed that high fructose corn syrup can make it clear that it just isn't true, at least under the conditions of our test, said psychology professor Bart Holwell, who specializes in the neuroscience of appetite, weight, and sugar addiction. When rats are drinking high fructose corn syrup at levels well below those in soda pop, they're becoming obese, every single one, across the board. Even when the rats are fed a high-fat diet, you don't see this. They don't all gain extra weight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll have our first speech and.
Now I'm open for questions.
Oh, no, we'll carry on. Go ahead, Thomas.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Penner. This debate is not about what causes obesity, but how to resolve it. And upon study, we found that governmental intervention on childhood obesity is ineffective in solving the problem. Okay. First, I'd like to discuss 2 ways to approach dealing with a problem. There's the measure of effectiveness, which is, am I doing it right? And measure of success, which is, am I doing the thing right? Well, clearly, because childhood obesity is still an epidemic, we're not doing it right. And because it's not working, it's ineffective. So some things that the government is doing here is school intervention, which includes physical education programs done at home, such as writing down the different types of physical activity you do at home. But as it first sounds good as a theory, it's ineffective because there is no real incentive for the child to tell the truth about this, and it's quite easy for them to lie about it. Okay. Another thing that the government has tried to do is implement healthy foods in cafeterias around schools, but it is just as easy for children to walk across the street to KFC or McDonald's to obtain junk food that way. Another thing that the government could and currently does do is public awareness. There is nutrition facts available in stores, online, and just generally for the consumer. But when the person goes inside one of the fast food restaurants, they're already going to buy or consume the junk food, and just by knowing what's in it and what kind of nutrients are in the food is not going to change their mind whatsoever. Further, campaigns such as participation, they're great, but they must be interpreted by parents and implemented to the children. and the children, they're not going to do it by their own free will. Okay. And my last point is the child fitness tax credit is a tax break that it's in Canada. It's basically incentive for the parent to enroll their children in physical activity, which sounds great, again, like as a theory. But unfortunately, only 55% of parents were actually aware of it. And parents of the lowest income quartile were even less aware and less likely to claim it. And therefore, only 15.6% believed it actually increased their child's participation in activities, and therefore it was useless. Okay, and yep, that's it.
Yeah, we have our volume on. Okay, so we yield the floor to their next speaker.
Yeah, my second speaker will be coming right now.
Show her how to read it.
Oh. I would have
She may rebut some of the things you just said.
Okay. So my name is Becky Gomez. I will give you my second speech. We agree with our opponents rather they agreed with us. The US F6 or Canadian Gout FG could easily take out the HFCS instead. The opponents actually proved our point. HFCS cause obesity. The government could not stop obesity without taking out HFCS. It is a cause and effect logical fallacy. Fallacy. UFCS causes obesity. To stop it, the government must change. What science says about the HFCS. Let's examine the science and insert some common sense into the conversation. These facts may indeed come as sweet surprise. The ad suggests getting your nutrition advice from your doctor. Having studied this for more than a decade and having read, interviewed, or personally talked with most of the medical and nutrition experts used to bolster the claim that corn sugar and cane sugar are essentially the same. Quite a different picture emerges, and the role of the HFCS is promoting obesity, disease, and death across the globe becomes clear. Last week over a lunch with Dr. Bruce Ames, one of the foremost nutritional scientists in the world, and Dr. Jeffrey Bland, a nutritional biochemist, a student of Linus Pauling, and I reviewed the existing science, and Dr. Ames shared shocking new evidence from his research centers on the HFCS can trigger body-wide inflammation and obesity. Here are an additional 5 reasons you should stay away from the product containing high fructose corn syrup. Number 1, sugar in any form causes obesity and disease when consumed in pharmacologic doses. Cane sugar and high fructose corn syrup are indeed both harmful when consumed in pharmacologic doses of 140 pounds per person per year. When one 20-ounce HFCS sweetened soda, sports drink, or tea has 17 teaspoons of sugar, and the average teenager often consumes 2 drinks a day, we are conducting a largely uncontrolled experiment on the human species. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors consumed the equivalent of 20 teaspoons per year, not per day. In this sense, I would agree with the corn industry that sugar is sugar. Quantity matters, but there are some important differences. Number 2, HFCS and cane sugar are not biochemically identical or processed the same way by the body. High fructose corn syrup is an industrial food product and far from natural or naturally occurring substance. It is extracted from corn stalks through a process so secret that Archer Daniels Midland and Cargill could reportedly not allow the investigative journalist Michael Pollan to observe it for the book. The Omnivore's Dilemma. The sugars are extracted through a chemical enzymatic process resulting in a chemically and biologically novel compound called HFCS. Some basic biochemistry will help you understand this. Regular cane sugar, sucrose, is made of 2 sugar molecules bound tightly together. Glucose and fructose is in equal amounts. The enzymes in our digestive tract must break down the sucrose into glucose and fructose, which are then absorbed into the body. The HFCS also consists of glucose and fructose, not in a 50-50 ratio, but a 55-45 fructose to glucose ratio in an unbound form. Fructose is sweeter than glucose, and HFCS is cheaper than sugar because the government farm bill corn subsidies. Products with HFCS are sweeter and cheaper than products made with cane sugar. This allowed for the average soda size to balloon from 8 ounces to 20 ounces with little financial cost to manufacturers, but great human cost of increased obesity, diabetes, and chronic disease. Now back to the biochemistry. Since there is no chemical bond between them, no digestion is required, so they are more rapidly absorbed into your bloodstream. Fructose goes right to the liver and triggers lipogenesis, this production of fats like triglycerides and cholesterol. This is why the major cause of liver damage in this country and causes a condition called fatty liver, which affects 70 million people. The rapidly absorbed glucose triggers big spikes in insulin, our body's major fat storage hormone. Both of these features of HFCS led to increased metabolic disturbances with that drive increases in appetite, weight gain, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, dementia, and more. The takeaway, cane sugar and the industrially produced, euphemistically named corn sugar are not biochemically or physiologically the same. Number 3, HFCS contains contaminants including mercury that are not regulated or measured by the FDA. An FDA researcher asked corn producers to ship a barrel of high fructose corn syrup in order to test for contaminants. Her repeated requests were refused until she claimed she presented a newly created soft drink company. She was then promptly shipped a big vat of HFCS that was used as part of the study that showed that HFCS often contains toxic levels of mercury because of chloralkali products used in its manufacturing. Poison sugar is certainly not natural. When HFCS is run through a chemical analyzer or chromatograph, strange chemical peaks show up that are not glucose or fructose. What are they? Who knows? This certainly calls into question the purity of this process from form of supersugar. The exact nature, effects, and toxicity of these funny compounds have not been fully explained, but they should be protected. But shouldn't we be protected from the presence of untested chemical compounds in our food supply, especially when the contaminated food product comprises up to 15 to 20% of the average American's daily calorie intake? Number 4. Many independent medical and nutrition experts do not support the use of HFCS in our diet, despite the assertions of the corn industry. The corn industry's happy-looking websites, www.cornsugar.com and www.sweetsurprise.com, bolster their position that cane sugar and corn sugar are by the same quoting experts, or should we say, misquoting. Barry M. Popkin, PhD professor, Department of Nutrition, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, has published widely on the dangers of sugar-sweetened drinks and their contribution to the obesity epidemic. In a review of the HFCS in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, he explains the mechanism by which free fructose can contribute to obesity. He states that the digestion, absorption, and metabolism of fructose differ from those of glucose. Hepatic metabolism, or fructose, favors de novo lipogenesis, production of fat in the liver. In addition, unlike glucose, fructose does not simulate insulin secretion or enhance leptin production. Because insulin and leptin act as key afferent signals in the regulation of food intake and body weight to control appetite, this suggests that dietary fructose may contribute to increased energy intake and weight gain. And furthermore, calorically sweetened beverages may enhance caloric overconsumptions. He states that HFCS is absorbed more rapidly than regular sugar and that it does not simulate insulin or leptin production. This prevents you from triggering the body's signals for being full and may lead to overconsumption of total calories. I will conclude by telling you this. The real issues are only 2. Number 1, we are consuming HFCS and sugar in pharmacologic quantities never before experienced in human history, 140 pounds a year versus 20 teaspoons a year 10,000 years ago. Number 2, high fructose corn syrup is almost always found in very poor quality foods that are nutritionally vacuous and filled with all sorts of other disease-prompting compounds, fats, salts, chemicals, and even mercury. These critical ideas should be the heart of the national conversation, not the meaningless, confusing ads and statements by the corn industry in the media and online that attempt to assure the public that the biochemistry of real sugar and industrially produced sugar from corn are the same. Vote for the government in this round and vote to have a program cut back on real government waste the waste the government has around your middle You open for questions? You are open for questions.
That's good job.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. My question is, we all agree on childhood obesity and what causes it, but we haven't addressed the second part of it, which is what do we do about it? You're talking about all these complex chemicals that cause it, but who's putting it in their mouths? Who's giving it to children, which is their parents? They have control over what their children eat, especially at a young age. Children usually learn things from their parents from a young age, and they follow that through the rest of their lives. So what do we do about it besides what causes it?
It takes government action.
Oh.
It takes government action, and if the parents can't really take control because it's all about the government. If the government doesn't stop anything, then neither can the parents.
Okay. You want to just launch into your second? Okay. So we'll say, okay, so Stephanie's going to just go and form her rebuttal as our second speaker. So we'll start that right now.
The government can't control everything. They are not in your households, they're not at your schools, they're not everywhere. They only have a certain amount of effectiveness on everything. You can't stop McDonald's from selling products. And just because someone puts a nutrition label on it does not mean they're gonna not eat it. If they're there, they're gonna eat it. Parents have a lot more control over their children. They're with them every day, they take care of them, they feed them. And it's proven that children go through life acting as their parents did, as they taught them. So if they taught them to eat fruits and veggies at a young age, there's more of a likelihood that they will eat fruits and veggies as they get older, and then they teach their children that too. If they start off from a young age eating McDonald's every day, that's what they're gonna learn. That's a routine. And everybody knows that having a routine is hard to break. It is. And childhood obesity, kids cannot control what they eat. The government will not control what they eat. It doesn't matter if they put healthy food in schools or anything like that. Children, they will eat what they were taught to eat by their parents. School comes second when kids learn. They are with their parents from the minute they are born to however old they are. They will learn from their parents. And if their parents don't control them, then that's what's going to happen.
There's a driver's ed teacher in the building. Can you call the office, please? A driver's ed teacher calling
or if they do not have parents, their primary caregiver, which they live with, or guardian. And these children, yes, after a certain age, they make their own choices, but under 12 years old, don't have a lot of choices to eat what they want. Not a lot of kids know how to make food. Yeah. The government makes guidelines, and it's the parents' idea to implement these rules. That's all they can do. There's not a government enforcer coming to your house every day to make sure you're eating a healthy meal. It's the parents, as well as physical activity. It's the thought of abs are made in the kitchen, not the gym. Whereas it's a total lie that you can go and eat whatever you want and then go work out later. It's what you do at home, and that's why parents also like to take their kids out and play sports and work out with them and have fun with them, as to keep away from childhood obesity. Without their parents, it's never going to happen. Open the questions, you guys. I know, I get stressful.
Custodian, call the office, please. Custodian, call in.
We're giving the floor.
If you have no questions, we're giving the floor to you.
We're ready for our rebuttal speech. Our third speaker.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it him? It's nobody.
Okay, I'm showing you the screen now.
Let me make a presentation to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle Thompson, and I will be giving the third and final speech for the affirmative. I would like to point out the following logical fallacies that can be seen in their case. First of all, the appeal to authority. You guys say that parents have no control over kids. Parents do not have control over their kids. They don't. So kids can go eat whatever they want when they want. When they're at school, they eat what they want. You know, they can go to the dollar store, or like you said, they can go to KFC and they can eat whatever they want. So parents don't have control of their kids. And which you guys are saying that parents do have control of their kids, which they don't. A lot of kids, I mean, it's off topic. A lot of kids, they go and do what they want. They go with their friends. Teens go and get pregnant. So parents really don't have control over their kids. And then appeal to routine. You guys say that kids have been brought up to eat, you know, what their parents eat, and they can't stop. That is false. Kids can change their diet and eat what they eat based on, you know, like, for an example, some parents try to force their kids to eat, you know, like vegetables, and kids are like, oh, I'm not gonna eat that. Or, you know, they get their dinner plate and they give it to the dog on their table. So parents are not controlling kids what they eat. Kids do have an option. Kids do have a choice. And then a slippery slope fallacy. You guys say kids eat what they're accustomed to. No, they can change their diet. As you can say, they can go to KFC, you know, after school. And like, for example, like here in America, Michelle Obama has regulated the food here. And so what she thinks that she's doing that by giving American kids healthy food, that's going to reduce the obesity rate. But in reality, the food here is bad. And so whenever they get home, they go home and they pig out, especially people who have lower income. And so her plan is actually backfiring for this. And then a false dilemma. You guys say kids have no choices. Yes, kids do have choices. They can choose to eat the food. No one's forcing them to eat it. And then they can give the food to the dog. And then this is important because the government must do what's best for the people. In fact, in 1984, the obesity rate was 3% due to high fructose corn syrup. And now in 2014, 30 years later, it's now 30% of obesity rate. Now, on the other hand, our case provided with 6 excellent points. First, significant risk of weight gain and obesity. Second, increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. 3, hypertension and evaluated bad cholesterol levels. And then 4, high fructose corn syrup and the liver damage. And then 5th, the mercury exposure from high fructose corn syrup. And then to go on, we have more points. 6, sugar in any form causes obesity and disease when accustomed to pharmaceutical doses. 7, high fructose corn syrup, sugarcane are not biochemically identical or processed the same way by the body. 8, high fructose corn syrup contains contaminants, including mercury, that are not regulated or measured by the FDA. 9th, many independent medical and nutrition experts do not support the use of high fructose corn syrup in our diet, despite the assertion of the corn industry. And then 10th, high fructose corn syrup is almost always a marker of poor quality nutrition, poor disease-creating industrial food products for food-like substance. Our points are superior because we gave 10 points and you guys didn't. And then not only is this about obesity, we attack the causes too. We have to look down from the beginning of what started obesity. Therefore, I ask you, when given a choice, Should you vote for the flawed clause, or should you vote for our case? The choice is clear. Vote for our case. Right here and right now. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for that spirited rebut. We're now going to have our third speaker initiate their rebuttal and then open it to general discussion. Okay, go ahead there, Jeanette.
Good afternoon, my name is Jeanette, and I'd like to summarize what we just said. So therefore, governmental influence should not be relied upon. You have not supported defended the government intervention. So children at a young age, preferably 12 and under, do not have the opportunity to decide their diet and nutritional habits. The government shouldn't have control over the way a family can be raised, and FDA cannot control this. Perhaps you misheard, the parents and guardians are the ones with the authority.
You're all done with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeanette, you want to, or other stuff, you want to expand on that?
Yeah. With my argument and your rebuttal, you misunderstood where our point of view is that government cannot. You still haven't defended on what the government it can do about that. You actually kind of agreed with me on that. Parents do kind of have. You've only talked about the household and what they can do and what they can't do. At home, the children go home and they're gonna eat, but they're less likely to eat junk food when parents have been taught themselves as children to eat fruits and veggies. They're not gonna let their child go home and go grab a bag of chips. A lot of people go home and their parents say, no, you have to have dinner and you have to have your fruits and veggies. It's just the way of parenting. And it is like, even from when we're little, we're taught things like religion and all these other things that our parents believe in. And we learn them and we grow up with them. Yes, children can change their habits, but that's them doing it themselves, not the government. If they change their habits from good food to bad, the government still has no control over it. They can't come and say, you have to eat your veggies, you have to do this. And as far as these commercials saying eat healthy, they're overpowered by McDonald's commercials and all these other things that are surrounding us. So the government does not make an impact on everybody's day-to-day life. In retrospect, it has to be the people in your life to make a change.
They want to see. Right. So you can open up for questions, I guess.
Just to speak about the topic of this debate, it's not about what's 100% effective, but what's most effective. And parental guidance and responsibility is more effective than government. Let's be honest here. Humans day to day do not listen to what the government's going to say. It's just the way people are. No one's perfect. No one's going to listen to the rules all the time. And government cannot help that. Like, they just can't. It's a personal thing. So do you have any questions?
You guys know that ketchup per se can cause obesity?
That has nothing to do with the topic. We're talking about the effectiveness of either government on childhood obesity or like personal and parental guidance on childhood obesity. We're talking not ketchup. We're talking about the second part.
Okay, but do you want to solve obesity though? It's the resolve, right? You want to resolve it. So if we want to resolve it, we have to take off its causation first.
already established that.
It's about what is it? Thomas, why don't you?
Yes. I didn't know. We've already established that that obesity is a problem, and it's great that we can outline a bunch of causes, but unless we can think of some.
Yes, but don't you need to know the cause of obesity to solve it? Is that correct?
But is okay? Just let's go with your point. Is ketchup going to be taken away? Is it ever? No, that's not.
Yeah, but the high fructose corn syrup that's in the ketchup.
Pardon?
The high fructose corn syrup that's in the ketchup. That needs to be taken away. We use pure sugar because that's causing obesity.
There are so many chemicals in the world that cause obesity. We can't get rid of all of them. The government can't get rid of all of them, or there'll be nothing to eat. There's be nothing.
Agreed.
Okay, so you're agreeing that high fructose corn syrup is a cause of obesity because so many of them can't get rid of them.
That's not the topic. You're supposed to be defending on what the government can do to get to solve.
Yes, the government has the power to take away high fructose corn syrup. Don't they have the power to do that? They do. That's what we're talking about. Exactly. You're exactly right.
Okay, but the government can't go to everybody's house and take it away. It's the parents' opportunity.
No. They take it away from the FDA, not from their house.
Parents can have the #1 control over what their child puts in their mouth from ages 12 and under. If they stop giving them high fructose corn syrup, then that's better than the government trying to take it away from stores, because it will take a long time for that to happen and a long time for that effect to happen all over the world, especially. But today, my parents can come and say, you can't have that anymore, and I won't be able to. That's just the way it is. Parents have #1 respect over what their child does, especially when they're 12 and under. Government, it takes too long, and this problem has to be fixed, like, soon.
Actually, government can do it immediately. All they have to do is remove it from the FDA market. And actually, before 1983, obesity wasn't even a problem, but ever since they added the high fructose corn syrup, it's become a major issue. So to get rid of that, we take that out. And yes, government can take it out immediately. It won't take a long time.
Okay, but what about the economic effect on that, on the market too? What happens when they take everything away from that?
It's just 6 cents a pound difference. That's all. I'm sure we can afford it.
No, not for us, for the companies.
Not for us, but the companies. The companies do make a global contribute with taxes and all that. What happens when they go away, when they stop making that stuff? Plus, chemicals are used in so many products. You can't take it away. You just can't take it away. There would be like so many foods that actually can help you do have those ingredients in it. Even fruit has high sugar. What, is a fruit gonna make you obese? No.
Well, there's a difference. Fruit has what is called complex sugar. That's actually healthy sugar. But so you're saying that just because we have to take out all the chemicals that we're not going to get it, because high fructose corn syrup is cheaper, we're going to use it and damage, our life, our bodies. Is that what you're saying? Because you're completely agreeing with us right now.
No, we're not.
Every time in the past, every time the government has done something, it hasn't worked. Like I've already identified, school interventions hasn't worked. Healthier foods in calves hasn't worked.
It wasn't the right thing. That's why what they need to do is take out high fructose corn syrup. Then it'll be right, and it will work.
Are you telling me that high fructose corn syrup is the single cause of obesity? No, there's always going.
It's 90%. It's a majority of the cause, more than a majority.
Just because it's in the product doesn't mean it's being forced into someone's mouth.
There's always going to be junk food. If you look hard enough, you can always find junk food. So therefore, the government.
High fructose corn syrup is in over 80% that's in the market by the government. Over 80%.
Over 80% in the food?
Yes, high fructose corn syrup is in over 80% of things that are on the market to be consumed by people. What do you get from that?
So why is everyone obese?
Oh yeah. How do you explain that fact that not everyone is obese?
It doesn't matter what's in the food. It matters how much you can eat it. You can have a perfectly good diet and be a good weight eating junk food, but you only have to eat it once in a while. Like, it's a treat. And that's what parents teach their kids, it's a treat, it's a reward. It's something that you don't have often. You eat fruits and veggies on a daily basis, and you can have hamburgers once in a while. It's not being forced to someone. And just because you're going to take the bad stuff out of it doesn't mean anything.
Like, we can't hear you.
We can't.
Well, like I said before, there's always going to be junk food. Oh, can they even hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you. You're on right now.
Okay. Like I said before, there's always going to be junk food, no matter what. Take out ketchup, take out high fructose corn syrup. There's always going to be junk food, okay? And it's the parents' responsibility to make it their tradition to eat healthy and avoid those foods. They can avoid those foods now. They can avoid those foods in the future. Therefore, it's only about what
How are the parents going to control it, though? How are they going to control it when over 80% of the food has high fructose corn syrup? They get the raw material, but they make it at their house. How are they going to control it? That's the government right there. The parents have nothing to do with controlling what they eat, even if they try.
The 20% of the food. 20% of the food. They can
80% of the food.
80% of the food has high fructose
But
corn
it's
syrup.
processed food. If the parent doesn't buy it, that's their choice. That's the thing.
But how can they not buy it? It's in over 80%.
The parent gives the child the food. What they buy, they can buy either processed foods and veggies processed food and give that to them. Then that happens for childhood obesity, but they have the control to go and get veggies and give that to their child. It's all about what you put in your mouth, not what it has in it.
Have you ever heard of the drink Sunny D Delight? Are you familiar with that?
Sure.
Okay, well, what my point is that parents give that in the morning for their kids, like before they send them off to school, because they think it's healthy. Oh, it's orange juice. Oh, your vitamin D, you're getting your vitamin. But really, that's really high in high fructose corn syrup. They're like, oh, you're gonna be healthy. They give them grape juice because it's grape. Oh, it's a fruit, so you're gonna be healthy. They give them ketchup because, oh, it's a vegetable, it's a veggie, it's a tomato. But really, that's causing the obesity right here. Just because they think it's healthy, they give it to them. And what I'm saying, that all that stuff is on the market that the government regulates through the FDA. And so, yes, parents can control them, but what happens here is that those are raw materials. So what needs to happen here, the government needs to take care of that first before the parents can do it. So the government first over the parents have the more power.
You never addressed your point of how.
All right, thank you so much for today. What do you guys want to do next week?
We're not done.
We're not done.
I don't know.
Okay.
We're not done.
No, I can't hear you.
Tell us we're not done.
We didn't.
Okay, just deliver your last point, Tom.
Which was?
What are you saying?
Oh, like they've never addressed.
Nah, that's okay.
Actually, do it.
They still
Get the last
still haven't addressed.
The joke on
Go ahead.
You guys haven't addressed the point of how the child fitness tax credits and other similar tax breaks has worked. So can you please clarify that?
Tax breaks are important, but what's more important is the content of what you're eating. That's more important than tax break. That is your clarification right there. And the children that are born after 2000, studies show that girls are 30%, 40% more chance to get diabetes too, and boys are like mid 30%. Primarily just because they're born after the year 2000, which shows that today's society, food is high in high fructose corn syrup. Like I said, in 1983, obesity wasn't even an issue until they added that then. And you know why the government added a high fructose corn syrup? Because it's cheaper to put that in instead of putting pure sugar. So take that out, and then nobody has obesity anymore.
So if 80% is corn syrup or whatever, 100% of cancer in an organ is caused by bad cells in a body. So do we remove all the cells to solve the problem?
Okay.
Can you please repeat that? It was kind of fuzzy.
So if you're saying 80% of all the processed food is corn syrup, then if 100% of cancer in an organ is caused by bad cells in a body, so do we remove all the cells to solve this problem?
No, not at all. You don't remove the cells. You remove the high fructose corn syrup, and then you won't even be in that situation. That's what you do.
Okay.
And the one person that can do that, or I should say entity, is the government. The government controls FDA, what's sold on the market. That's the thing.
It's perfectly fine to have high fructose corn syrup on the market because we do have other, like you said, there are 20% of food that is okay that doesn't have this high fructose corn syrup that causes the diabetes, and it is ultimately the parents' choice to purchase this 20% of the food and feed their family the healthy food, not the government's regulation of it. Even if they had 95% of food had the high fructose corn syrup, it doesn't matter. The parents can still buy the 5% of food and feed that to their family and therefore be healthy.
This is about the rich people, because obviously the people that are older or younger or poor are not going to have, the money to buy that good, healthy, organic food. So they're just they automatically default to the food that's cheap, and all that food that's cheap has high fructose corn syrup. So what is this, like, for the rich man's battle? Is this the rich man's war?
Like I said before, yes, there's high fructose corn syrup and all this stuff, but a healthy lifestyle, what we've been taught on the Canada Food Guide, is different proportions. If you have your good proportions, you will be healthy. That's what we are taught. And if there's bread that's gonna have sugar in it, and they still tell us to eat it because it's healthy. If you have proportion-wise, you are okay. I can go have a burger and I won't be obese. Just because you have a product with high fructose corn syrup in it doesn't mean you're going to be obese. It depends on what you eat, how much of it you eat. You need balance in your life. Parents control that balance, not government.
Further, in some of our, let's say, least wealthy neighborhoods here, we have community gardens that are 100% run by people in the community, not by the government, which goes to serve healthy food and shows why people don't need the government to give them food. That is, they don't need the government to regulate.
Wait, I have a question. So how long is your growing season in Canada?
Not
related.
Okay, so it's non-related, but you just said that the community is growing a garden. So how can you say it's not related when you just said it right now? You just took out your own argument right there.
We can preserve the food.
But don't you use chemicals to preserve food? High fructose corn syrup to preserve it? That's right there. Look, okay, right there. That whole argument is just gone right there. If you use preservatives, that's chemicals in it. Come on now. I have a question. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but which is healthy for you? A Mexican soda or an American soda?
How is that related to how the government's effective?
Because your parents can make a choice, because they sell Mexican Cokes here in America, and that soda is made with pure sugar. It's healthier. And then we have American soda that has high fructose corn syrup. Therefore, your parents can make the decision for you what to buy. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's
our point. You just proved our point that parents do have control over what they buy and what we have. You're not supporting the fact
Yes, but the government can take it off, can they not? That proves my point.
Yeah, the government can take the unhealthy pop off the menu, but there will always be unhealthy foods for people to eat. There will always be cheaper alternatives for companies, just like the high fructose corn syrup. Why did they do that? Because it was cheaper. It's up to the parents to choose if they want to buy the more expensive, healthier foods, or if they want to continue eating the foods making them obese.
We're not talking about unhealthy food. We're talking about food that blatantly makes one obese. That's what we're talking about. So the government, you just said, have the power to take it off the menu, which is our point. So the government first, then the parents. So the government does have the power to take off high fructose corn syrup.
Okay, well, let's talk about the 20% of good food too. You can overeat good food and be overweight. Say you need meat in your diet. You can overeat meat. Red meat's bad for you, but it doesn't have a high fructose corn syrup in it, and you can become overweight and have obesity because of that. So you're saying that everything you eat is gonna, just because something has that syrup in it is gonna cause obesity. No, it all depends on the portion size. You can have a small piece of meat and it's not gonna cause you to have obesity. But if you have more of it, of course it's gonna make you overweight and you're gonna have a problem. Parents control portion. Portion is balance, and balance is what you need in your body. You can, and it's okay to have some sugars like high fructose corn syrup. It's not bad for your body. It all depends on how much of it you have.
We're actually coming to an end of this meeting as we have other obligations to attend to. But however, I'd like to address your last point. High fructose corn syrup is different from sugar. It's not pure sugar. It's the cheaper way to do things out by the government. And now here's a quote. Some people have claimed that high fructose corn syrup makes it clear that it just isn't true, at least under the conditions of our tests, says psychological professor Bart Holbel, who specializes in neuroscience of appetite, weight, and sugar addiction. When rats are drinking high fructose corn syrup at levels well below the soda pump, they're becoming obese, every single one across the board. Even when rats are fed high-fat diet, you don't see this. They don't all gain extra weight, as you know, with the metabolism rate and stuff. It's the high fructose corn syrup. Now, opening another question, what topic would you guys like to argue next week?
Okay, yeah, we put together a list for before that had a variety of things on it. I think we had obesity, obviously we've just done that now. We had possibility of arguing Medicare, I think, before, or was the healthcare debate we were considering doing? There was also we were talking about maybe discussing NATO countries' reaction to the Ukraine. So there's a few options we could take.
Hey, Andrew, we could do that, or you had one about religious items or something in school.
Oh, yeah. I'll speak to that just right now. It basically in Canada. So this kind of. Sorry, I got a lot of people in the background here. We have in Quebec, in Canada. Quebec is obviously a pretty particular province within Canada. It has very specific values because it's our one francophone province within the country. And they basically put legislation forward in their provincial legislature, so the equivalent to your state legislature, that that all government employees, that all public employees may not wear any visible religious item of any kind into work at all. So they passed this legislation forward. No wearing of any religious items whatsoever on the job. And then, so that's being debated right now and determining whether that is okay or not.
Yeah, we'd be real interested in something like that. We have the kids are working on a moot court case which deals with establishment cause, and they would really like to probably go both angles on that one, if you don't mind, for next week. And I have 3 more different people, but that goes really well with our Everson 1947 Supreme Court case, where our Constitution, the First Amendment, stated that you could not establish a religion or prohibit the free exercise thereof. And Hugo Black completely changes that around, and the government starts going into all kinds of religious ideas. I'll look at that. You want to do that? We'll be fine.
Yeah, we could. Well, basically, yeah. So we'll have to pen some kind of basic resolution because obviously we're going from 2 different country perspectives that should governments make a demand of total secularization in their buildings and disallow to wear religious items in there.
Okay, which side do you want to go on?
I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys interested in that one?
Either.
Yeah, my team here is game for either.
Okay, we'll let you guys try to prove that you should separate the two. As Thomas Jefferson said in an 1802 letter to Danbury ministers, a wall of separation between church and state. And then we'll try to prove that it should not be separated.
So we're going to argue that wearing of religious items in public buildings by the employees, not necessarily citizens, but by public employees is prohibited. Right.
Yeah. I think you take the Quebec stance, and we'll try to take somebody from outside Quebec. That's kind of strange because we figure Quebec being French, that Catholicism would be pretty strong, and that would seem anti that. But I know diversity issues are completely changed in everything that I know from Canada.
Yeah, the postscript to that debate actually is funny that it's visible items. So the idea would be that the Catholics would wear a crucifix chain, but as long as it's not visible, they could wear it. Interestingly, the irony has been pointed out that because Quebec, you must know for the past basically 40 years has been in a very strong stance to make themselves a unique and separate culture and protected Canada. So now, basically, there's an idea that this flooding of immigration in Quebec, because they have a high degree of immigration because of French speaking, so a large degree of African immigrants and so on, and especially Muslim immigrants, that they feel like this culture of uniqueness they've tried to defend for half a century is now being subsumed by the immigration that they need for their economy. So they're in a bit of a bind that way.
Yeah, I won't mention the first year I went to Winnipeg. I believe it was like 1961, so I'm really dating myself. I've been up in Winnipeg quite a bit. And my grandparents were born in northern part of North Dakota, so our families went back and forth across the border, and I used to when I grew up in Bloomington. But yeah, you would, when I was a youngster, you would go to Quebec, and if you were speaking English, you would be in a vast minority. And now today, there's many schools that if you're a French speaking, you're in the minority. So things have really changed. And I guess one neat thing about that is there's no more separatist movement, huh?
No, it had its spine broken in the 2011 election. And
wow.
And actually, finally on the coffin, they had a provincial election 2 years ago, and in that one, they were decimated. It's basically, Scotland brought up a little bit of a bump of resurgence, but after that, what went through, you're not going to see another referendum, though. No.
We're going to have a deal with the Ukraine, but it's going to be on at 7 in the morning to about 8:30 this Thursday. I'll send you something. The students are going to talk about what's it like going to school in the middle of a war and all this other kind of stuff. It's going to be kind of a fascinating deal. I got 2 schools in Ukraine, one from Kiev and one from eastern part of the Ukraine.
So that's 7 o'clock our time, Central?
Yeah, 7 o'clock our time. It'll be from 7 to 9 on Thursday, but you can join anytime. I'll send you the link if you're interested. And then we're working with a couple schools in Jordan. Where were you stationed at over there?
I was in just outside Damascus in Syria.
Oh wow!
It's called it was Camp Fouar. It's a village of Fouar. The nearest large town was Kanarneh, but yeah, basically 30 minutes outside Damascus.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yeah, I had family that came from Aleppo. Many years ago, so if you ever went to that part, but yeah, ISIL and ISIS, and we are about 180 miles south of a little Ebola problem ourselves there in Dallas. So
yeah, I've been reading that. And
we're people are getting kind of concerned over if they're actually telling you the truth about some of the things. And the 28th, we're having a big conference on Ebola, so that might be something we could talk about. I don't know if diseases are much of a problem, but high school kids are, all worried about, all have Germ-X and, washing their hands and everything. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, you know, and with that ISIL thing is, it's interesting you say that today in our parliament, we're voting whether to send the F-18s or not into Iraq. So it's like 2003 all over again.
Yeah, and the bad thing about it is with no boots on the ground, the ISIL troops are right outside of Baghdad, and they don't have people that can fight them. So I don't know. You know, air power is really good, but you have to have something to follow it up with.
Yeah, no, well, you're not going to see it. We're going to pass it just to appease NATO. That's pretty much it. This is a political action.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think you use the military for politics. Doesn't end up too good, you know.
Oh, we specialize in that up here.
Yeah. I think they ought to send the politicians over, and then maybe they might have a different opinion. I'm not too sure. But we tried to argue with y'all as best we could, because we're in a really dilemma here. Our president's wife is really strong about government intervention, you know, into the school lunch program. So we didn't really want to. They're arresting kids in Nebraska for bringing their own lunch. Yeah. It's gotten crazy. We're kicking kids out of the school for bringing in foreign. Not foreign objects, but, you know, like bringing in food from outside. It's treated like contraband. And so we try to look at what the government could do. And that's why we came up with this high fructose corn syrup, because we actually thought that would be something that the government could do that would be positive, instead of doing what basically negative stuff that doesn't really amount to anything.
Yeah, no, I was trying to push some kind of we were looking at, I don't know if we articulated exactly what we were trying to do there, which was basically debunk the idea that government intervention is effective.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think it's really effective. I think the problem is that and it never was meant to be effective, because it was never meant to really do anything. You know, if I told her not to eat the cookies, because the cookie, you know, was really, really bad, you know, then that would encourage people to eat the cookies or whatever, okay? We cannot in the United States, if somebody came and made cookies for everybody else, they could not pass them out to anybody, because it would just be like passing something out. Now that's gotten completely out of control with the government, and it has nothing to do with obesity. While we allow people to eat like high fructose corn syrup and stuff like this, and causing tremendous amount of health problems, the government could just stand up on health problems alone and actually do something. I don't really think the government wants to. You know, just like using NATO troops, how come we don't use them like in the Ukraine and something? You know, to me, that's just, I don't know.
There's a lot of unintended consequences, because you touched that high fructose corn syrup. I try to make kids take this point, is that what effect is it going to have on your market?
Yeah, well, the bad part is that if 30% of the people, 30% of the males and 40% of the females in this generation of high school kids right now will develop diabetes 2 before age 35, and they will be on medicines. The medicines treat secondary, not the primary. The primary problem is the high fructose corn syrup caused obesity, but they'll be treated for blood pressure, cholesterol medicines. They have that the rest of their life. And the government's fine with that, because they're being much of the health care, no matter what side of the border you're on, is written up by drug companies for drug companies' purposes, not for really health of the individual people.
Well, what's I gonna tell them? You know what? You can spend your money on the grocery bill now or hospital bills later.
Yeah, the hospital bills will be real high.
Yeah, right, exactly. So yeah, okay, we'll get. I don't know. Can you guys go next week on that then? Do we feel like we could even? Okay, now it has to be.
Oh, well, I forgot. We don't have school next Monday. Can we do it next Thursday? A week from Thursday?
Okay.
Or we can do it 2 weeks from Monday.
2 weeks Monday.
Okay. Yep. 2 weeks Monday, and I'll send you a link. And then I forgot all about we're having practice, but we're not having school. So
that's okay.
I may call back and see. If I have some kids that can stay, we might could do it next week. I can tell you more tomorrow morning.
Okay. We're not even here next Monday. Oh, we're not here next Monday either. We're having Canadian.
Oh, yeah, Columbus Day? Yeah, okay. So let's do it 2 weeks from Monday then.
All right. And I'll have a different team as well, so it'll be fresh and cool. And
okay. Thanks a lot, Andrew.
Thanks a lot, Mike. I'll see you later.